The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hello, welcome everybody that's joining us today, this afternoon, or depending on where you're joining us from in the world. In Australia, we're in this afternoon, so thank you very much for joining in. This is the first webinar that we are running as part of the Accelerating SDG Practice series that has been a collaboration between the SDSN Australia, New Zealand, Pacific, and ACS, which stands for Australasian Campuses Towards Sustainability, for any that aren't aware of our respective groups. So it's been a fantastic collaboration between SDSN and ACS over the last year to share the knowledge around accelerating SDG practice. So this is the first open webinar we've run. We've ran a number of closed forums previously. So we're really excited to be able to share some content with a really broad spectrum of people today. So first and foremost, my name's Rhiannon Boyd, I'm the General Manager of ACS, and I'll be on the call today just to help with any technical issues or help moderate the questions that we get coming throughout the session. I'm now going to throw over to Tal Keston, who is the Manager of the Australia, New Zealand, Pacific, and she's going to be introducing our wonderful presenters on the session today. So Tal, I'll hand over to you.
Thank you very much, Ray, and thank you and hello to everyone for joining us today for what is promising to be a really fascinating webinar. So as Ray mentioned, we've been for the last few years working with our members and discussing what's the role of universities in the SDGs, and particularly how the universities can use SDGs to really accelerate their action on sustainability and sustainable development. Through these discussions, we've heard some really fascinating initiatives that universities in our region are doing, and we're really keen to share some of the initiatives that they're doing and also what they're learning from doing them, because the SDGs are really quite new and they present some challenges as well as some really great opportunities to do things in a different way. So in this first webinar, we're going to focus on a very particular area, which is how universities can engage students with the SDGs through co- and extracurricular activities. We're doing this because mobilising our students and helping them to act on the SDGs is really one of the main ways that universities have an impact and contribute to the SDGs. And the reason we're starting with co- and extracurricular activities is because universities have been able to try really interesting and innovative ways of engaging with students, which are hard to do sometimes through the curriculum. Now, curriculum is also very important, and we're saving that up for another time, but today the focus is on co- and extracurricular activities. So what we're going to do today is we're going to hear from three really great presenters from Monash University, the University of Western Sydney and the University of Wollongong about initiatives they've held around engaging students with the SDGs. And in addition to asking each of the presenters to talk about what they've actually done, we've also asked them to reflect about their experience with using the SDGs, what's worked, what's been difficult, what are the benefits of doing it. So we're excited to share these in their presentations. And so let's get started. What we'll do is we'll have the three presentations, and then at the end, we'll allow you to take questions. And I think you'll need to type them into the chat window. So first up, we have Liz Bacchetti, who's a project officer at the Monash Sustainable Development Institute in Melbourne, Australia, who'll be talking about some of the co-curricular leadership programs that Monash is running in this space. So go for it, Liz.
Okay, thanks, Tal. Hello, everyone. I'm Liz Bacchetti. I'm the project officer at the Monash Sustainable Development Institute at Monash University. In my role, I look after a range of student engagement co-curricular programs which are focused on the SDGs. So today I'm going to talk about 3 of our flagship initiatives and give you a little bit of insight into our experiences and lessons learned with using the SDGs. So I want to start with what are our objectives for student engagement and co-curricular programs. So the first, at the very basic level, is to ensure students know and care about the SDGs. So it's about building awareness, SDG literacy, and demonstrating the relevance of the SDGs to different disciplines and career pathways. The next is around developing the skills, competencies, mindsets needed to address the SDGs. So some of these include things like systems thinking, interdisciplinary work, critical thinking, creativity, entrepreneurship, and so on. And then it is also an opportunity to respond to SDG related challenges in the local community and also at the university level, and provide a platform to develop solutions. So I'll take you through a few examples of our student engagement activities we run at Monash. These kind of vary in terms of their breadth and depth of learning. So breadth kind of refers to their scale and reach. They're generally a bit more light touch, focused on awareness building, while depth is deeper levels of engagement, ensuring students adopt a number of key competencies to address complex problems. So the first I'll talk about is Leave No One Behind, which is our newest initiative. We ran a pilot in 2017. The program is designed to support students to develop a social business that addresses a social inclusion challenge in the local community. It has a particular focus on the humanities, arts, and social science disciplines, so that being education, business, law, arts, design, and architecture, and provides students with an opportunity to not only harness the skills that they develop from their degrees, but also develop new foundational skills in innovation and entrepreneurship and orient those towards addressing a social challenge. So the program aims to build student literacy in the SDGs and supports the development of entrepreneurship skills as a means of developing local solutions to the SDGs. It runs as a 10-week program. It is time students go through a process of exploring a social issue that they're passionate about, designing a business solution, testing it, refining it, and then pitching it at the end to win prize money. And we kick off with a big social innovation summit, and then the program itself involves weekly workshops and mentoring. The next initiative we have is Take One Step, which was developed in 2015 as an interactive online platform to increase student awareness of sustainability and encourage action on the SDGs through a personal pledge. So the platform challenges participants to make an SDG inspired change in their lives, either through a pledge or an action. And then they have to link it to one or more of the SDGs and document their progress as they go along. So the initial pilot was kind of designed to engage students in broader perspectives of sustainability, so not just environmental, and improve the quality of applicants for our Green Steps program, which I'll touch on just shortly. Oh, just one more thing on this. So following a pilot that we did on Take One Step, we partnered with the Monash Business School in 2016 to deliver a tailored version to their first and second year business students with the aim to increase student understanding of the SDGs and how they apply to business. So the last program we have is Green Steps, which is a competitive entry sustainability leadership program, which involves 5 days of hands-on training and an opportunity for students to work in multidisciplinary teams on an on-campus sustainability consultancy project, which addresses a challenge, a sustainability challenge that we have at the university. Green Steps is our oldest program. It was started 20 years ago. We're celebrating the 20th anniversary this year. And it was started from a group of Monash students who wanted to turn the theory that they were learning at university and turn it into some practical training. In 2016, the program underwent a review that resulted in an updated delivery model and refreshed training content to align with SDGs. So previous to that, it didn't have any inclusion of the SDGs. So now students in this program learn about the SDGs within the program, and then they're also given tools to address sustainable development challenges at a global organisation and individual level, and they also build their leadership capacities as well. So overall, this program has really great demonstrated value add for the university through the student consultancy projects. It's launched lots of sustainability careers for our students and established a network of sustainability professionals who are working all over the world. So there are our three kind of flagship programs that we run at Monash. As you can see, they all have a very different focus. So why do we choose to work with the SDG framework? There are a number of reasons. The first is that it provides a common framework and lens to explore global and local problems. It also allows us to integrate a broad perspective of sustainability. So again, not just environmental, but looking at the social, cultural, economic, ethical, cultural, and leadership. I've got cultural in it twice. Dimensions of sustainability beyond just environmental. Facilitates systems thinking and holistic thinking and supports students to explore the interactions between different issues in the SDGs and look at all the different kind of causes and impacts. As well as looking at the problems, it provides a lens for innovation, identification of different solutions, inspires new ideas, and points of intervention when it comes to developing solutions. The SDG framework has helped create and build partnerships around the university, both internally and then external to the university as well, through a common vision and purpose. And lastly, by the very integrated nature of the SDGs, it ensures that interdisciplinary learning is a core experience for students by fostering collaboration across faculties and disciplines, which we encourage in all of our programs. So there's also a number of challenges that we've faced as well in using the SDG framework. So I think at times higher ed takes an ad hoc approach to sustainability and sustainable development education. So generally there's a low SDG visibility on campus and also within the curriculum. As a consequence of that, there may be lack of motivation for students who don't always see the relevance of the SDGs to their future careers or studies. It also takes a considerable amount of time, effort and resources to create depth and impact of learning, but that's absolutely a necessary precondition. So some of our learnings and recommendations to leave you with. So have a good understanding of what else is happening across the university, both what's happening in terms of students and student-led initiatives, but also within the curriculum itself. For all of our programs, we've started with a really small pilot and focused on either that breadth of depth, found a niche and a real focus for each of the programs, and really captured the lessons learnt and the impact from the pilot phase. It's also really important to align with the university's priorities, agendas, and graduate outcomes. So for example, at Monash, we have a net zero emissions strategy and a net zero waste strategy. So we're able to shape some of the lessons and content and some of the projects around those. I would say also too that SDG language is not always helpful and accessible to students. So focus on cross-cutting professional competencies that appeal to students. It also makes it relevant for them and helps increase their agency. Consult with students in co-design when developing a program to understand what their needs and wants are out of a program. And something really important for all of our programs is creating partnerships with students, academics, other faculties, departments. I'd say none of our programs would be possible without the strong partnerships that we've been able to develop in the design, delivery, and teaching. And it also creates a bit of shared ownership of the programs across the university as well. So happy to chat further offline to anyone. My email address is in the slide there. And with that, I'll hand back over to Tal.
Thank you so much, Liz. That was fantastic. Now we'll move on to the next talk. So if you have any questions for Liz, either type them in or say them up to the end. Next up, we'll have Brittany Hardiman from Western Sydney University, who'll be talking about networks that they're running around the SDGs at the university and beyond. Go for it, Britt.
Thank you. Well, we sit in Sustainable Futures here, which is under the DBC academic. Our team is responsible for curricular and co-curricular experiences for students around sustainability and the SDGs. Oh, my slide's not changing, sorry. There we go. So Western Sydney University became a signatory to the SDGs Higher Education Commitment in 2017. Our VC signed this agreement when heading Universities Australia, and it was without internal lobbying. This was a welcome signal that triggered momentum top down, and we were able to join the work we were already doing bottom up. We have responded to this commitment by identifying SDG linkages to our curriculum, operations, research, wrong slide, and engagement. And we underpin these themes with SDG 4 and 17. The SDG framework has been great for pushing the sustainability agenda here at Western. However, the implementation has been kind of like the traditional elephant fable of the elephant in the dark. The ancient fable tells a story of a group of blind men who've never come across an elephant before. Who've never come across an elephant before and who are learning to conceptualize what the elephant looks like. Each blind man touches a different part of the elephant's body, and only one part, and as such tries to explain the elephant based on their experiences. The implementation of the SDGs at Western has been sort of like this. Each department in school determines what the SDGs mean for their own work based on their disciplinary knowledges, which has been an exciting process, but sort of like pulls them back into their silos, not necessarily getting a full picture of the elephant. Engineering see the technical solutions behind the goals, whereas our nursing faculty are much more holistic in their approach, thanks to the Millennium Development Goals that preceded these. And I don't know why my PowerPoint is going crazy, I apologise. What we are trying to achieve here is a transformation in students' values and beliefs through our educational activities, and to take a holistic approach to all the goals as they are intended through our co-curricular work, bringing students out of their disciplines. Next slide. There we go. So our first initiative is our 21C Sustainability Bootcamp, which is available to all Western Sydney students at any level, so undergrad and postgrad. We launched this in the autumn session of 2019, and it is currently a resource for academics to embed and access for their teaching programs, as well as an extracurricular activity to be completed on campus, which will result in a digital badge, which you can see on the right. The Curiosity Pod introduces the concepts of the Sustainable Development Goals and sustainable development through systems awareness, worldviews, and future thinking. Access via our online learning system, it contains 12 to 15 hours of interactive learning, which features lectures, case studies, film clips, and resources. And for our extracurricular students, a mandatory 1 hour face-to-face campus workshop with pre and post activities. The case studies provide an inspiring example of initiatives and research across Western Sydney. And these case studies are from our local partners as well as academics that contribute towards addressing the global challenges and the SDGs. As part of the bootcamp, students are required to submit an art-based reflection in response to the learning modules. The learning modules are outlined here on my slide, where they design a postcard to the future and also a poster on urban heat. The peer review and student feedback for our pod has been extremely positive. So in particular, our co-curricular or extracurricular delivery of the bootcamp was How Hot Is Your Campus? This was offered in spring session last year. We hosted a workshop on campus for 2 of our campuses. We had 45 students attend, and they investigated firsthand the effects of urban heat on our campuses. This also coincided with the staff engagement program, which ran alongside with Yammer postings. As part of the workshops, students looked at recording heat at various locations of their choosing on our campuses. We focused on our campuses at Kingswood and Parramatta. So on a warm spring day, sunspots on campuses recorded between 50 and 60 degrees Celsius, with 67 being the highest recorded on one of our campuses. Students were also asked to reflect on what actions they could take for a cooler future for Western Sydney. The module itself was built around an academic's works, Dr. Sebastian Flutag, who is doing a lot of work on urban heat at the moment in Western Sydney, as well as Wes Rock's Turn Down the Heat strategy. And this particular activity related to SDGs 11 and 13. Another initiative that we run is the RCE SDG Youth Challenge. This is an international challenge led by myself here at RCE Greater Western Sydney, which is hosted by Western Sydney University, jointly with youth from RCE Yogyakarta in University Gadjah Mada in Indonesia. The challenge has run now for 3 years, and it's through our RCE Global Network, which is headed by the United Nations University Institute for Sustainable Studies and Advancement, I think. We've had, through that 3 years, we've facilitated almost 50 youth-led sustainability projects across 13 countries. The aim of this initiative is to mobilise and empower youth to take action for the goals at a local level, and it is centred place-based. Youth lead a range of projects, and I leave it totally up to them as to what they want to do. Projects range from beach cleanups, photography workshops, health programs, school conferences and workshops, technological innovations, apps, all linked to the core of education for sustainable development. Each year we've focused on a different set of goals. So across the top of my slide, you can see in 2018 was SDG 13-14, 2019 was SDG 1, 6 and 10, and this year we're focused on SDG 11, 12 and 15. The reason that I've clustered the goals is because it makes it easier for students to tackle the challenges around this rather than leaving it as open free choice, because that can be difficult sometimes. And I encourage my youth leaders to actually explore how these particular clusters relate to the other SDGs as well. So in terms of transformation and transformational education, it happens with the project leaders rather than the youth that are connected to their programs. And each of our Western Sydney projects have been co-curricular, led by a passionate student with support from myself, as well as local partners and academics. So we've had 4 projects feature out of the 49. So in 2018, we had a student look at the issues of plastic pollution and its impacts on wildlife, particularly in oceans. We've had a student mobility program go to Vanuatu and interview local champions around climate change and what that means for their communities. In 2019, we had a student work on female hygiene products and looking at innovative solutions to sanitary issues, as well as keeping young girls in education. And this year we're doing a Waste-Free Western Sydney waste avoidance campaign with our students in design. And they're all co-curricular. And I guess the key to this initiative is virtual mentoring. So I run a weekly WhatsApp group where I check in with my youth leaders to see how they're going, what they're up to, how their projects are progressing in a really one-on-one, sorry, not one-on-one, a group fashion where we are together and we sort of, nut out the nuts and bolts of their projects. So in terms of our key learnings on working with the SDGs, and what we would recommend is that an activity is not learning without action and reflection. It's not about bums on seats, it's about impact. Deep learning and true transformational education that challenges the values takes time and good pedagogical design, so you need to be willing to invest in it. The SDGs have been a great framework to tackle sustainability at an institutional level, but to attract a broader range of students that are just not the typical sustainability orientated students. We are attempting to connect the global agenda in a way that is transformative, but also place-based and personal. For us, the biggest challenges are still scale and scope, and how these broad goals can translate into meaningful action for everyone at a local level, and what this actually means for students. I'm happy to take questions, or if anyone wants to contact me about these initiatives, you're also welcome to do that. Sorry for my slides being, I don't know, there must be a timer or something on the top, but I'm so sorry, but thank you for having me.
Thanks so much, Britt. That's really fascinating, and yeah, maybe your presentation was possessed or something. Okay, so again, questions at the end, and we'll move on to our final speaker, Dr. Belinda Gibbons from University of Wollongong, who's also the head of PRIME, the Principles for Responsible Management Education for Australia and New Zealand. So she's coming to it from a somewhat different perspective. Go for it, Belinda.
Thanks, Tal. Good afternoon, everyone. Firstly, I would just like to acknowledge that the beautiful land on which we run this webinar today is Aboriginal land. And as we share knowledges, may we always remember that the knowledge is held forever within the traditional custodianship of country. And I would like to pay respect to elders past and present and extend that respect to any Aboriginal colleagues listening in today. So for the past 2 years, I've coordinated the UOW Act for SDG Inter-Faculty Dean Scholar Challenge. This Sustainable Development Goal and engagement activity has involved students coming together from different faculties and schools across the university to create interdisciplinary teams that would work on global goals at a local level. I'm just going to focus on this activity today, as I thought it was important that you can think about possibly something that you can grab hold of and engage with in this event for 2020. Just a short background on this global movement. So each year in September, during the week of the Global Goals Anniversary, the UN celebrates action for the Sustainable Development Goals. And the hashtag Act for SDG movement asks everyone across the world to act towards realising the Sustainable Development Goals by enacting and sharing projects. This map shows projects that were actioned during the Act for SDG 2019. And it's an incredible way of seeing what's happening around the world at any one point in time. It gives you an idea of, to give you an idea of the growth in this movement. So in 2017, Australia had one project that was lodged, 2018, 7, and in 2019 got up to 20 projects. So while we're doing lots of things all the time, this is a really good way to share what we're doing across the globe. At UOW, we joined the Act for SDG Collective by organising an Interfaculty Dean Scholar Student Challenge event focused on using the SDG framework to tackle global goals at a local level. The UN acknowledges that to realise the Sustainable Development Goals, we need a cross-sector approach. And this is also required in universities, which you would have taken from the other speakers as well today, where students from all faculties are given the opportunity to come together and learn, challenge and find innovative solutions to complex local and world challenges. Teaching and learning in an interdisciplinary way at university contributes to our graduates understanding the benefits of working this way when they enter the workforce. And the Sustainable Development Goal framework provides a foundation for this type of engagement to occur. So I technically live within the business faculty, and bringing students across disciplines to work in teams is quite common, but pulling students across the university is a slightly much grander challenge. So as a university committed to the Sustainable Development Goals, I approached our Deputy Vice-Chancellor of Education and presented a business case for why we needed a university-wide approach. We started off with a pilot to challenge engagement activity, and through our Faculty Associate Deans of Education, Dean Scholar students were invited to participate in our UOW Act for SDG Student Challenge. For us, at the moment, this is not a subject and it didn't earn any credit points towards a formal qualification, but I worked with our UOWX sector to ensure that the students received acknowledgement of participating in this challenge through formal recognition on their co-curricular activity statement. So I've run this challenge for the past 2 years. In 2018, we held a 1 3-hour workshop But in 2019, after feedback from students about needing more time to innovate and students wanting to increase their skills in interdisciplinary teamwork and pitching, the challenge was extended to take place over 6 weeks, with students coming together face-to-face 3 times. So in 2019, we had 30 Dean Scholar students who volunteered their time to come together. And in workshop 1, we did an introduction to the goals, where to start with their innovative thinking, meeting their interdisciplinary team members and receiving their challenge. Workshop 2, more where are they at? How do you pitch? And in workshop 3, their final pitch presentation, where we also partnered with our iAccelerate incubator so the students could pitch in an innovative accelerator type unit. I think it's important to note at this point our partners. So once the students were interested, ensuring the challenges were relevant and local was extremely important. I contacted a number of external partners, to which some replied positively, and I worked with them on wording our global goals as local challenges. So we first looked at their key challenges from an industry perspective. We aligned these with the Sustainable Development Goals, and then finally chose one that we thought would resonate with this particular age group. So the Wollongong City Council came on board, Green Connect, Scouts New South Wales, and our Wollongong Indigenous Centre were amazing. They attended the first workshop and presented the challenges to their respective teams. They attended the second workshop to hear how the teams were going and where their ideas were up to. And finally, they were the judges in the final pitch presentations. So working with industry was extremely important for us with these challenges. We worked with iAccelerate, our incubator, and we also worked with our Global Challenges unit, who sponsored the event, and they in particular brought the students the SDG lapel pins just as prizes. And as you can see there, they were our challenges, and whilst they were a lot more detail was provided, just to give you an idea, they were themed around water, employment for young former refugees, protecting our land and our escarpment, and no land for landfill, which were particular challenges that our industry was facing. These are just pictures for you to share. So on the left, that's our students working in 2019. On the right is them working in 2018. And down the bottom there, you can just see our judges, our industry personnel judging the pitch. And on the right, that's the final pitching room where our students engage. For us, as mentioned with the previous speakers, the goals provide us with a common language through which we can discuss a global problem through our different lens. Our challenges brought together students studying law, engineering, medicine, psychology, accounting, management, and they all had a completely different view on what clean water and sanitation meant. The goals bring us together to discuss grand challenges and challenges that are bigger than us and bigger than our discipline and bigger than our faculty. And so it was really important that we understand other people's lenses at this time. Because the goals are so holistic and interconnected, the consequences and impacts can be discussed and analysed. Other frameworks tend to be discipline or topic related. So if I hold a prime event, a Principles of Responsible Management Education event, for example, I don't get other disciplines attending as I feel it's a management-based frame. Or if I hold an event around a sustainability framework, again, it tends to be seen as an environmental frame of thought, whereas the SDGs are covering people, planet, and prosperity. I don't feel I could run this type of event without the Sustainable Development Goal framework, or it possibly wouldn't have been successful. The United Nations Foundation really draws the students in. For us, I guess some of the challenges, bringing the goals to a local level for us was crucial, but also challenging. So not only was I working with students, but I also found myself and other academics partnering with me. We had to work with our industry partners on ensuring that they could see how their challenges aligned with the goals. And then we spent quite some time analysing the goal for our local area. Education is key. It was important that not only our industry, but the students had an awareness raising session at the start. So in 2018, our first workshop, we didn't have a lot of time. and to do a background into the goal. So the responses were not as holistic as in 2019, where we held the 3 workshops. And the first workshop, we could really bring the students up to date with the framework and how it may impact them and their careers. And I think another challenge, and I've got that third point there, that they are so holistic that setting a boundary or scope can be quite challenging. So for example, with our landfill challenge, as the students became more aware of landfill and responsible production, that then led them to discuss sustainable cities and communities. That then led them to ideas around industry and innovation. And then that led to discussions around gender equality. And so we had to really ensure that our challenge for the students was nice and tight. And so that specific challenge was around university students in Wollongong and curbside furniture that was being left when students move out at the end of session. And that's a real issue for our council. So we had to make it as tight as possible. You would have heard this word as well a lot of times throughout this seminar today, but partnerships are crucial. For us, the students loved having industry in the room, and industry loved hearing the students. And that partnership has extended on. So the partners from industry have the students come in and presented it to their board, their actual pitch to their board, and so that relationship is continuing. Students really enjoyed the interdisciplinary teamwork. I would definitely suggest starting with a pilot group, with a small group. We targeted the Dean Scholars initially, and we would really like to expand this out and grow this event into something quite large. And I think too, in terms of why all universities are focused on, the Times Higher Education Impact Rankings, this is a good justification if you're trying to establish a business case of starting these particular type of activities. It's great for student learning. And we have to move to this type of cross-disciplinary subjects as a learning exercise for our students. So thank you for listening to my story today.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Belinda. That was really fascinating. So now we've had our 3 presentations, and they've all been so on time that we actually have a lot of time for questions. So Ree, how would you like people to do that? Do they just type it in the question box?
Yeah, I think the easiest way is in the GoToWebinar control panel that you'll have on your screen. There is an area where you can type questions. So please do send them through and we can read them out on your behalf. If you've got a question for a specific presenter, you can let us know, or we can open it up to the panel to respond to. So I'll just give everybody...
So I think there's already one there. I can't actually...
Yes, there is one. Jen Dolan has said that she really appreciates this webinar. Many thanks. Just wondering what your experiences are with incentives for students to engage with co-curricular initiatives. What works best? Also, what is the incentive for academic staff to support these engagement activities? So what are your experiences? So I think that's a collective question for the group. Anyone want to jump in?
Does anyone want to?
Sorry, it's Belinda, University of Wollongong. I guess I can have the first stab. I think incentives it's an extremely interesting topic. It's kind of like this, what's in it for me type of question. One of the reasons we, I guess, approached the Dean Scholars first was when we were piloting this type of activities, because they are usually very keen and eager for this engagement activities. What was interesting was when we ran the first one, our second year, the incentives, they weren't after credit points, they weren't after vouchers, they weren't after, they actually wanted more skill development. They wanted to learn how to pitch. Depending on the discipline they're from, there's not a lot of pitching that can be covered. So they were more interested in the training. They wanted the networking with industry. So it was that type of incentive for students rather than what we traditionally thought. And I think that's something for us to think about as we move forward in integrating and embedding it into our curriculum. In incentives for staff, we partnered with a lot of staff, and I guess it's not in our workload, but it is something that we're extremely passionate about. So I don't know if I have an answer for that one, other than that it is just our way of operating, and you work with those who are very passionate in this area with you.
Great. Liz, Britt, do you want to add anything to this, particularly around the students?
I guess for us at Western Sydney, Jen would know this because Jen's my senior manager, but for us at Western Sydney, for our students, it was the digital badge that really pushed students to self-enroll into the co-curricular element of the Sustainability Bootcamp. What that is just a little badge that sits on their LinkedIn profile. And when a potential employer or anybody scoping their profile clicks on that digital badge, it comes up with more information about what it is that the bootcamp is. So essentially what we're taught in it, the key learning outcomes, the effort that went into it, and the mode of delivery. So we were actually surprised because we were also offering incentives for students to go through the bootcamp. But it wasn't the gift cards that we were offering that was the push. It was actually the fact of this digital badge. So we at Western Sydney are doing a lot of work around renewing our curriculum and these co-curricular curiosity pods and embedded curiosity pods. So with the intention that they will be, students will be awarded a digital badge at the conclusion of them. So this was the first sort of cab off the rank here at Western, but it was just that. So I guess it's students to put something on their resume was definitely the thing that was what pushed students to do our extracurricular part of the bootcamp.
Great, thank you. Anything else, Liz? I think there's quite a few more questions now from what I can see.
I can touch briefly, but I will echo a lot of that. So we generally do have students that come into these programs who really do have an existing passion for sustainability and social impact. And in our Leave No One Behind program, the students who come in don't see themselves as entrepreneurs, and we don't actually even use that word at all. Students, again, kind of want to develop these future work skills, professional competencies, something that they can put on their CV. And also within our programs, we have a lot of project-based and problem-based sort of activities that they can do. So they are gaining experience through the program as well, that they're able to talk to, whether that's a specific consultancy project that they work on, or that they've pitched something at the end that they can sort of show to future employers as well.
Thank you. Yeah, very similar experiences, it sounds like it. Ree, do you want to choose the next question?
Sure, we've got one from Seb who's asked, has anybody dug down much to the level of the 169 targets? And this is often an interesting one of whether you work towards the goal or the targets.
Yeah, it seems to be a very favourite topic of discussion.
Sorry, it's Belinda again from the University of Wollongong. We did go down to our students as they were coming up with their creative ideas to work on solutions to the challenges. They were asked to put the targets into their particular pitch, just so that enabled them to work with industry, so that industry could also start to align their goals with their targets. The goals are so high level, so it's really important that we got down to some type of target. And we didn't necessarily get down to indicator level because they were in that really high level creative space. But, you know, targets enable the question about, you know, how are we going to get there and the impact that it will have. So I think it's important that we do get to that level.
Yeah, with my RCE SDG challenge, I asked my project youth leaders to go down to target level because the issue with what I have with the goals is that what you think or what you're looking at on top isn't necessarily what it is that it's trying to address. So It was, I guess, an educational process for them to look deeper into it. But with our sustainability bootcamp, we just went high level with the relevant goals, but we did the pre-work to know that those goals specifically linked with the targets under them.
And for us, across our programs, it is quite high level, but we will get the students when they're unpacking different problems to definitely look at the targets underneath each of the goals to spark some kind of inspiration, and also when developing different interventions for solutions. And they have to, in their consultancy projects and also in their pitches, talk about which goals and targets it aligns to as well.
Interesting, thank you. Any other questions, Ree? I think there are quite a few.
Yes, so the goal target question has come up a number of times, so thank you for everybody that sent that one through. I'm just getting some feedback from our presenters, so could I get you guys just to mute yourself for a second, and that should cut that out. Okay, so we've got a specific question for Elizabeth, which is, does your development institute sit outside of the university completely, or is it 50-50, and how do you source funding?
You want to have a go, Liz?
She's probably muted your audio.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I mean, you can jump in as well, Tal, because you also work within the institute. So we are a research and education institute at Monash University. We are non-faculty aligned, and we collaborate with a lot of the different faculties across the universities on research projects and education. And we are also quite external facing, so we do a lot around impact and policy as well. And we're quite a unique model in terms of we sort of sit very much across the university, and because of the nature of, we use the SDGs as a guiding framework for a lot of our work, and because of their nature, we are able to work with a lot of different faculties and disciplines as well in our work. So we are funded through the faculties and essentially through the university, but we also bring in a lot of our own sort of research money, consultancy projects that we do with external partners as well. Tal, do you want to sort of extend on that as well?
No, I thought that was fantastic.
Okay.
The actual programs, the take, the green steps and leave them behind funded. Yeah,
so Leave It On Behind is funded by the 5 humanities, arts and social science faculties. And a few years ago, they were looking for a way to collaborate with each other. And they sort of came to us, and through a couple of meetings, we came up with the program that is now Leave It On Behind. We also, as an institute, put a funding into it. For Green Steps, that is funded by Buildings and Property at the university, and they are the team that looks after sustainability operations and sustainability for our buildings across the campus. And they coordinate the consultancy projects, which are projects that are sort of based on their work priorities around sustainability at the university. So they align quite well. And they get a lot of value out of those. Take One Step was initially funded by our institute and then partly funded by the Monash Business School and also the Education Academy at the university as well.
Thank you. Ree, any next questions?
Yes, so another one for all presenters, and we've got people on the call from all over the world today. So we've got one that's come all the way from Afghanistan, Afghanistan, asking if all the presenters are interested in partnerships to support universities beyond Australia. That's an interesting question.
Bree, do you want to start maybe? given you're already doing that?
Yeah, so Western Sydney University is one of 165 regional centres of expertise on education for sustainable development, which is a super mouthful. So RCEs are responsible for ESD at a regional level, but they're also connected to a global level. So they're divided into the 4 regions: the Americas, Europe, Africa, Middle East, and Asia Pacific. But they also work collectively across all of those 4 regions as well. So my challenge has gone, I started the pilot in Asia Pacific, but it's gone now across 13 countries and multiple RC networks. So 100% yes, always interested in partnerships and how we can partner globally. And for us, the RC network is a means of doing that. And they don't necessarily have to be run by universities. They can be run out of community groups, by local government, vet educators. So there's different ways of the network being run, but 100% yes, always interested in partnerships.
Did anyone else want to add anything, or should we move to the next question? Let's move to the next question. Ree?
We've got lots of questions, so we'll try and get through as many as we can, but if we don't get to all of the questions, we will follow up with them post-webinar. So please don't worry if we don't get to yours in the session today. So another one comes from asks if any of these projects have continued outside of university courses.
I think most of them are actually outside courses. Is that correct?
Co-curricular. Our bootcamp sits on top of all our available courses at Western Sydney. So it doesn't matter what degree you're doing or what level you're doing, postgrad or undergrad, you can participate in our bootcamp. So it's on top of a course.
Yeah. Great, maybe to the next one.
So another question, what about research students or students working as research assistants? Research projects around the SDGs involved overseas field work. So that comes from Associate Professor Graham Johnson from Monash Uni.
Does anyone want to have a go at that?
Could you repeat the question, sorry?
It's just about involving research students or students working as research assistants. I guess research projects around the SDGs. Is anybody doing any work in that area, or can you speak to that one?
I mean, a lot of our programs are open to undergraduate students, postgrad students, those doing research, and it, I guess, Leave No One Behind particularly aligns to students doing research, where they can take what they're doing and turn it into more of a sort of entrepreneurship activity or a business solution as well. But yeah, we have to do a bit more work to reach into different sort of research students across the university, I think, but there's definitely an opportunity there.
Yeah, and I think also maybe Green Steps, in a sense, gets them to be somewhat like research assistants.
Yeah, particularly in their consultancy projects. And there is a big focus on developing research and consultancy skills in those projects as well. And the students act as kind of junior consultants.
Yeah. Ree, maybe one more question, because I also want to ask a question just to finish things off.
Okay, very specific one. A question around how the industry partners were recruited for the Act for SDG program. So can you give a little bit of detail around what the industry saw as being the key benefits for participation?
Belinda?
She's stuck on mute.
Oops. Sorry about that. Try now.
Okay.
I think you're
sorry.
Belinda.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, thank you for the question. I think we throughout the university, obviously universities have many different types of industry partners, and we engage in industry in many different ways. So I guess I reached out to a number of industry partners just through email initially, and then through some phone calls. So it is really just reaching out to industry partners and talking them through a bit about the project and what their time commitment would be. But they were so enthusiastic about, you know, understanding more about the goals, looking at their key challenges and working with students and enabling that relationship and partnership to continue after. So it very much is based on contacts. So if you don't have necessarily any industry contacts, most universities should have a database with industries that they connect with. So you could do it that way.
Very practical. Okay, so can I ask one last question, Ree?
Yes, by all means.
Thank you. So I just wanted to finish maybe thinking about how you can expand these types of activities to a lot more students, because it seems to me like the kinds of knowledge and skills and mindsets that these students are getting from these activities are really valuable and important to anyone really at any course in the university. But both because they're not compulsory and because they're fairly high effort to run, they tend to not reach that many students. So I'm just wondering if you've had any thoughts about how universities could maybe offer it to a much bigger proportion of their student population. And you have like 30 seconds. Who wants to start?
I'll start. At Western Sydney, what we're doing with our boot camp is trying to embed it into first year units, which have large cohort, depending on the school, so that they get that taster and that foundational knowledge about sustainability in the SDGs, and then hopefully they will be encouraged to move through into the extracurricular module 4 component of that boot camp. So that's the way that we're trying to push it for scale.
Great. Liz, Belinda, any thoughts?
Yeah, this is.
I guess. Sorry, you go, Liz.
Sorry, Belinda. This is certainly a question that we grapple with a lot, trying to scale up our programs and reaching more students. So similarly, there's certainly an opportunity for students to be involved through accredited studies and things like also orientation week, or maybe as an introductory unit, and actually moving it more into the sort of formal curriculum. And I think it's really important to bridge the formal and informal curriculum, because this will be sort of impetus for further education and deeper learning across the university as well. But yeah, incorporating it, I think, holistically across the university and integrating it in different courses and having a formally coordinated approach would be helpful.
Yeah. Thank you. Belinda, last word.
Yeah, I guess for us, I agree with the other speakers. It's something that we talk about a lot. For us, I guess we're trying to look at cross-faculty subjects and whether that be an elective that students can take, because the learnings from that interdisciplinary teamwork and communication have just been phenomenal for the last 2 years that we've run it. We're also looking at integrating this type of activities into our internships, so that we ensure that we still have those industry partners on board, and when our students are out in industry, that work becomes relevant or links up with the Sustainable Development Goals in some way.
Great. Thank you all for these reflections and for your presentations and a really interesting discussion, and for sharing what you've learned from your experiences. I'll now pass it on to Ree to wrap things up.
Yes, thank you very much. We're right on the hour now, so we will wrap up the session. It will be available as an online video resource for everybody that wants to re-listen or share amongst your colleagues if you weren't able to make it to the live session today. Thank you again for your participation. We'll be forwarding around some resources to anybody that was registered, including the video link. And if your questions weren't answered, then we'll do our best to follow up, particularly if you directed them to a particular presenter. So thank you very much again. I hope you enjoy the rest of your day or evening, wherever you're dialing in from, and we'll see you on the next webinar. Thank you very much.